Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Omega Insight. Just as a reminder, the website is up and running www.theomegavector.org. And from there, you can register for the Omega 1 that is scheduled for July 9th through the 11th. Just go to the program section and you can register right from there. Tonight's topic it connects to what we discussed last week. We talked about the 7 questions that lead us towards happiness. So tonight is the concept of what causes us unhappiness. So the negative source of our unhappiness. That's the things that I would like to discuss this evening. There's a list of 12 that we've collected throughout the years of things that bring us unhappiness. Now, the question that we have to pertain or question ourselves is, does unhappiness just happen, or do we create it? And that's kind of a strange thing to think. Why would I create unhappiness? But in the things that I'm going to present to you tonight, you'll get a better picture of wow, you actually might be feeding the fire of unhappiness more than the fire of happiness. Unhappiness, if we are responding to exterior events and we react, that can bring us a deal of unhappiness. So let's just go with it. So, first one that we say is guilt. Anytime we experience some form of guilt, that brings us unhappiness. Guilt of the things that we said or did, and we haven't found resolution within ourselves yet. That brings us a sense of unhappiness. And as I go through this list, I think it would be very beneficial for you to consider how often are you thinking of these things? Do you experience guilt in your life, or are you carrying it around? That's bringing you unhappiness. That's a source of unhappiness. The second one is worry. Naturally, worry. Worrying about things that we can't control brings us unhappiness and a great deal of stress as well. Worry is connected to the future. We're worried about things that will happen, perhaps maybe repeating past behaviors or what will happen. The worry idea brings us and connects us to the number 3, which is fear as well, because we experience a great deal of fear. So, number 3 is fear. Fear connects us to the past most of the time. We're fearful of things that we experienced in the past, that trauma or drama that we had, that something caught by surprise, injury that we had, and that brings us to fear. Worry is about the future, what will happen. So when we are consumed by worry, we are not happy. When we are consumed by fear, we are not happy. Now, I will pause here for a second because each one of these does have a positive aspect. All I want to do is lay down the road work right now to say, here's a list of things that are causing us to be unhappy because we're feeding into them. If we rise above and use them as an opportunity to overcome them, we have value. And I really want to just address the concept that these are things that, when we dwell on them, bring us a great deal of unhappiness. So number four is self-pity. I know this is a strange thing to discuss, but we do. We pity ourselves at times, and we could even loathe ourselves. We regret the things that we've done, which regret is another one on there. But we have self pity. Oh, poor me. Whenever we're thinking, oh, poor me, that brings us unhappiness naturally. Oh, poor me. 5 is envy. When I am envious of another individual, and I talked about this last week when we compare ourselves to other people, when I am envious of another individual, that makes me feel less than. Like I want what they have, and I'm not going to be happy until I know what they have. And that brings us unhappiness naturally. I'm going to keep saying that. Expectations. When I have expectations of something, and I'm obsessed with my expectations. And if they don't go the way that I expect them to go, I have unhappiness. I have an expectation, perhaps maybe how my children should act, or how my spouse should act, or how my coworkers should act, or how my family members should act. There's always an expectation based upon the way I think things should be. And 9 times out of 10, our expectations will always lead us to disappointment. Carlos Castaneda used to say that. Number 7 is the absence of spiritual interest. Now, I know this is a little tricky here. I'm not talking about religious, I'm talking about spiritual. things that set my spirit on fire, things that bring me joy. Spiritual, like this is a harder one to discuss. The spiritual interest on wanting to improve, um, seeking out the purpose of life. Why am I here? What's my contribution? Those are spiritual interests. When I don't have that, I often have unhappiness. And I know this is a topic that we talk a lot about in Omega 1, people who are searching for their passion. Without that passion or without that search, they feel empty and just blah, existing, which of course is not happiness. It's the opposite of that. Number 8 is resentment, the idea that I resent others. So most of the time, I resent things other people have done. I resent somebody else's action. I resent political figures. I resent family members. I resent community members. I resent church members. I resent coworkers. I can resent things that other people have done because I take it personal. Somebody acts in a certain way and I take it personal and then I resent them. And whenever resent resides within you, you're not happy, you're vibrating with resentment. If resentment really did bring us happiness, we'd be resenting all the time and enjoying it. But most of us don't enjoy the resentment that we have. Number 9 is jealousy. When I'm jealous of another individual, it's kind of like envy, but extended. I can be envious of people, but when I'm jealous, I often become obsessed. I'm jealous if somebody gets something that I don't. And then I go out of my way to try to destroy them and manipulate and plot. Again, these are not happy thoughts. They're lower vibration ways of being, and it brings me to a heaviness in my life. Number 10 is greed. When I'm greedy, I'm never not it's never enough. I need more. I need more. I need more. And so greed is an obsession as well. I have to have, I have to have, I have to have more, more, more. And nothing seems to satisfy my hunger. I'm constantly searching to fill that void, which of course that drive, it's not the happiness. It's not a purpose even. It's a hunger and it's an ache. I could even use that word where I'm just so greedy. I need more. I need more. And oftentimes it is this at the expense of others. A greedy individual is somebody who'll take the last piece of pizza without offering if anybody else wants it. And I'm not saying just because you do that, maybe you're starving and stuff, but that's just a small illustration. You take it without even checking to see if it belongs to you, let's say. Anger, number 11, of course, anger robs us of happiness. Everybody understands that. Anger is a low vibration, it manifests, it can eat ourselves alive. This is one thing I connect with the idea of forgiveness. If you don't forgive, you are going to live in anger, and anger doesn't solve anything. Anger resonates within you and eats you alive. And the angrier you become, the more you are eaten alive by anger, and your low vibration begins to show up and you have a negative impact. You become a negative individual. So anger again, I'll pause here, can motivate us if we're not consumed by it. And the last one I mentioned briefly before is regret. Regret are things that I regret that I have done or haven't done. Many people are filled with regret at the last moments of their lives. They lay back and they think about the things that they regret that they should have done or shouldn't have done. And they have this list and then they seek forgiveness. A lot of people who are on deathbed or they know, like they have a death sentence, let's say, whether you have cancer or a disease that showed up and you don't have much to live, much time longer to live, people will go around and start asking for forgiveness or seeking to give forgiveness to those that they have considered. Well, mostly it's asking for forgiveness, the things that they have done or haven't done. A mother who seeks to her daughter and forgives or asks for forgiveness for not the loving ways that she could have been more and she wasn't. A daughter who seeks forgiveness for not being a supportive child. It could be anything. So regret has a hold on us. And of course, when we're in those vibrations of regret, we are not experiencing happiness. Remember, happiness is a high vibration, it's a lighter vibration. When we're happy, we feel energized. When we experience this other list that I just created, we are not energized. And again, I want to simply state this is based upon being consumed by this list of um, examples that I've given. So I'm just going to review them one more time again. So we have guilt that robs us of our happiness, worry, fear, self pity, envy, expectations, the absence of spiritual interest, resentment, jealousy, greed, anger, and regret. So, those are the 12 items that can bring us unhappiness. Now, as I stated earlier, when I first started this video, contemplate and think about how many of these things consume your life on a daily basis. If they are consuming your life, that means you're feeding more into the unhappiness fire into the happiness fire. So that's a lot to think about. Thank you for letting me discuss that this evening. I hope that you have a good, wonderful rest of your week. And as the week progresses, again, remind yourself of the different types of ways that you're feeding the fire of unhappiness. Next week, I'm going to talk about irrational ideas, which bring us to emotional disturbances. Again, that do not bring us unhappy, but emotional disturbances can unhinge us. And the irrational ideas, you'll be surprised at how often we think something, and it's really not a rational thought, but we'll feed into it, which causes us to be emotionally upset. So I hope you tune in for that as well. Have a good night. Bye now.